Hello, I'm Valerie Biden Owens, chair of the Biden Institute at the University of Delaware. Today, I have the privilege of introducing Baltimore's Mayor Brandon Scott, who was sworn in as the 52nd mayor in December 2020. At the age of 27, he was elected to Baltimore City Council, making him one of the youngest people ever to serve. He was unanimously elected president of the Baltimore City Council in May 2019. Thank you, Mayor Scott, for joining us today on this issue of All Politics is Personal, a program where we introduce the public to the person behind the politician. We know anyone can research your policies and accomplishments, but that's not what we're here to talk about today. We're here to talk about you. So let's begin. If you start to tell me your life about what it was like growing up Scott.
Oh, growing up Scott was, I always say it was like heaven and hell at the same time. I was born here in Baltimore on April the 8th, 1984, 11 days after the Colts, or that team that we call the Mayflowers, went to that other city in Indiana as thieves in the night, and grew up in a family.
No grudge there.
Oh, well, definitely no grudge there. We're good, they're not, but that's a whole different story. We're blessed to have the Ravens now. But grew up in a family who really came to Baltimore escaping rural poverty. And that's what really fueled my life. My dad followed his brothers and older cousins, my uncles here from rural North Carolina. My mom actually moved here when she was an infant with my grandmother, my aunt, her older sister, and my grandfather from rural Virginia. And what brought them here was literally the Port of Baltimore. But even escaping that rural poverty, I grew up in Park Heights in Northwest Baltimore, a neighborhood that is known for hosting the Preakness. But for me, every other day of the year, when Preakness wasn't there, I wasn't even treated as human in my own neighborhood. And that really what pushed and shaped me into who I am. But I had a loving family and a loving community, even amidst all the violence of the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. Really having that strong family and community, not just my mom and my dad, but my brothers and my cousins and my aunts, all of us living within a stone's throw away from each other, really made my childhood a great experience, even though we were living through, now as adult, some of the most dangerous times that anyone has ever lived through.
You said brothers?
Yeah.
How many brothers?
Two younger brothers.
And where do you fall?
I'm the oldest. I'm the chief.
So you had a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
As the big brother.
A lot of them. My baby brother reminds my parents frequently that any problems they have with him, they should blame me because I essentially raised them, is what he would say.
I see. Did you go to the public schools?
I did.
And did you like school?
I love school. School was a place for me to continue my learning. I learned a lot at home. Growing up with my dad and my uncles, you have to learn a lot, period, right? I learned how to read a map when I was 4. And actually, my mom tells a great story of us going home to where my grandparents live in Halifax County, North Carolina. And my mom had never driven down there by herself. But at 5 years old, I showed her how to do it because I knew how to read the map and where we were going. But I love school. I went to Malcolm X Primary School, Dr. King Elementary, Roland Park Middle. I was talking to some Roland Park Middle students a few weeks ago. One of them asked me if I was the most famous person to go to Roland Park. I said, no, I'm number 2. And he's like, who's number 1? I was like, well, this young man by the name of Tupac Shakur also went to this school. But school was a great place for me. It's also where I started playing sports, which was also.
I was going to ask, were you a sport? Did you play sports, music, theater?
I did.
Teacher's pet, clown?
I think I was a little bit of all the above, right? So I did sports, baseball, basketball, track all the way through high school. That was, the sport that I tell the story at my rec center. I had 2 coaches, Coach G, who coached us in football and baseball, and Miss Mary, who coached us in track. And they were having this discussion on like what my focus sport was going to be when I was a young man. Miss Mary won, and I never played organized football again until I was an adult. Track is what I did. I could be a teacher's pet depending on the teacher. I was a teacher's pet, and I was also like the teacher nemesis for some teachers. So I was the kid. I'll tell you a great story. When I was in high school, My high school, Merville High School here in Baltimore, was a VOTEC school, CTE school as we call it now. I had 100 in my focus area, which was computer programming or computer science. But I had a comment on my report card that said conduct interferes with learning, because the teacher and I, let's just say, we didn't see eye to eye. So, but I graduated from the school. She stopped teaching before I graduated, so I won that first political war.
You remind me of one of my brothers, not the big brother, but but my brother Jimmy Biden. He could raise hell, and he could, make everybody laugh at the same time.
Most of the time, it's for a good reason. I never liked seeing people picked on. When something was wrong, I would say it was wrong, no matter if you were the teacher, my parents, I pretty much would tell anybody they were wrong except my grandparents. They were the people that put the most fear in my heart. But I like to have fun. I do tell jokes. When I'm done with elected office, I'm going to go on a stand-up comedy tour. Is probably what I'm going to do.
You are really?
I am. I'm committed to it. My staff they won't even let me have a correspondence dinner because they're afraid of my jokes.
Oh, well, we should talk.
We should.
All right, I'll work with you on that.
Yes.
When you grew up with your mom and dad or your grandparents, were there any refrains or things that they kept beating into your mind when you were a kid? Like my mom, I don't care what everybody else is doing, you're not going to do it, or, never give up, get up quickly and keep moving. Did you have any of those?
We had a lot of those, in not just in the Scott household, but in the Scott family. A few stick out. My dad would always say to us, "Well, if so and so jumps off the bridge,"
oh God, yeah,
like
you're going to do that too, yeah.
We had an infamous one that, like, if we did something, and if you die, I'm going to kill you. Essentially, he would tell us to, like, make sure that we're protecting ourselves. But I think the one that always stuck with me the most, and it wasn't just my dad, it was my mom, it's my uncles, it was my aunts. They would always say that every time you walk out of this door or one of their doors, you're not just representing yourself, you're representing that name that you have. And remember what that means.
Hey, wait a minute. Did you read my book?
I did not.
Because that's almost the exact paragraph. When we walked out, I have four of it. There are four of us. I have three brothers. And when we walked out of the door, my mom, the last thing she would say to us, remember, you're Bidens. Not as opposed or like the Kennedys or the Rockefellers or any famous name, but you're four siblings, and you got to have each other's back, and you got to take care of each other.
Now I see this, the history of my family, knowing that, like, my grandfather and my grandmother died working a pig farm in rural North Carolina to get my parents, my dad, to the place where they could come here, right? Knowing that my grandparents didn't get to finish past middle school, understanding what they went through, knowing that my mom's parents, my grandfather, who is my only grandparent I still have, who lives around the corner from me, that they moved here from Amelia County, Virginia, with $300 to their name. And if it were not for his boss telling him about the General Motors plant, they would have moved back, and I was that close to not existing. So every day when I go about not just being the mayor, but just being a man, I think about, like, my responsibility to take the family and the family name a step further and never do anything to disrespect all that they went through.
What was your first job?
Well, in my family, my family runs an air conditioning heating company here in Baltimore. So working at Cold Spring air conditioning heating was not an option, and it was my very first job. Even before I had a work permit, I had to work there every summer. I worked there legally from the time I was 14 until right after my 22nd birthday. I was almost 23, and I was coming to work here at City Hall.
So you, it seems like you've always had this passion and this commitment in you. That was politics then a natural avenue for you to use this passion to make things better, or was it something that you fell into?
I think it was natural. But it comes from my upbringing. When people typically would ask the question, like, what pushed you into getting into politics and why did you? And I always tell the story that, I was a very young man, not even 7 years old. the first time I saw someone get shot, simply outside playing basketball, and someone had some conflict with that person and came and shot up the whole basketball court, not thinking that there were kids and other people just standing out there playing, and just remembering that no one really cared, and pestering my parents about like why no one cared about what happened. Like we were supposed to just go back to school the next day. No trauma counselors, no one asked us questions, no one really gave a damn what happened to us. But at the same time, being the quintessential village kid, I, after school, would be with my uncle most of the time while my brothers were in daycare because my parents couldn't afford for me, all three of us, go to daycare. My uncle, leading the family business, was always getting invited to political fundraisers. And I took to hearing and listening to everything that was said, and remember conversations with two of my uncles telling me about like how this person wants them to donate to their campaign, but they have done nothing to advance our community and our people. And knowing that if I wanted to change, that that's what I should do. So my parents would tell you that I was 5 years old the first time I said I wanted to be mayor of Baltimore, and set my life to that path because of what we experienced growing up.
How about your brothers? Are they in it too, in
No.
politics?
No. My baby brother actually served this country in the U.S. Navy. He was on the USS Laboon for many years, and now he works as a contractor. The middle one works for Pepsi. They have many political. Well, the baby brother could care less about politics.
It's palpable of that you want to bring about change, and it seems it's mostly from your values and your convictions of growing up as a child, and you don't want other children to not have the advantages because of a different zip code or because of a different economic life that their parents have.
Yeah.
How you doing that as mayor? Oh, I don't want to get into politics, but
It's just
policy, I mean.
I always say, I say this to the young people all the time. I got into this for them. I want them to see, because I'm under no assumptions that I'm going to like right all the historical wrongs of Baltimore in my time in office. Baltimore's the birthplace of racial redlining, right? It's just not going to happen in my short time in office. But someone has to be the person that starts that. And for those young people to see the opposite of what I had, for me to spend so much time for them, for us to invest in their schools, in their rec centers, in their neighborhoods, and for them to be able to physically touch me and know that we're working as hard as we can to improve their lives so they don't have to go through the same things that I went through, as many of them as possible, is what the goal is.
You have two sons?
I do. Eight-year-old Sarone, who's in basketball camp right now, and a soon-to-be 6-month-old Charm, who is probably throwing fits in daycare.
Yes, that's what they're supposed to do when they're 6 months. Now we've had a serious discussion.
Uh-huh.
So are you game for a couple rapid-fire questions? One word to describe yourself.
Determined.
Favorite movie?
Malcolm X.
Favorite music?
Wu-Tang Clan.
Favorite food?
Watermelon.
Favorite color?
Blue.
Do you have a hidden talent?
I'm a DJ.
If you could have a superpower, what would it be?
To fly.
And your birthday? April 8th.
I'm an Aries.
Your theme song?
Oh, that switched recently. My new theme song is They Not Like Us by Kendrick Lamar.
Favorite vacation spot?
My favorite vacation spot is where I went to college in St. Mary's County, Maryland, right on the Chesapeake Bay.
If you could have dinner with anyone, living or dead, with whom would you sit down to have dinner?
Well, that's an easy one right now, and I'm not being a homer. It's the president. Just so I can try to get some more one-up on my mayoral colleagues, get some more funding for Baltimore.
Thank you very much for joining us in All Politics is Personal, because you are the absolute living, breathing image of making all politics personal. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you to our partners, the Stavros Niarchos Foundation. And remember, all politics is personal.